Good evening. Um, for everybody who's been watching the ministry YouTube channel lately, I appreciate it. You might notice I've been putting a lot of songs up. I've just been in a real good mood spiritually. Uh, just writing a lot of songs and playing a lot of gospel covers on there. I'd really like to thank y'all for watching it. We're up to almost 8,000 views, and very humble about that. Very thankful. So I'd just like to start off by thanking y'all for watching that. And well, it's been a while since I put a sermon up. I think the last one was the Easter sermon. I hope everybody enjoyed that. Got quite a few views on that one. And I was talking about the resurrection, and that's really important. So I'm glad everybody watched that. It's been a while since I put a sermon up, so I've been working on one for the last week or two. Finally got done with this, called Raising Christian Children. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's start off with a little story. About 6 months ago, unexpectedly had to find a new job. And my wife, she was also starting a new job. And the schedule that we had always had for years was just flipped upside down on us. And we're creatures of habit, not really good about change. And so the drastic change began to take its toll on us. We had set times for everything. When we cleaned, when we studied the Bible, when we went to bed and got up, and all of a sudden everything was different. Everything was changed on us. And like I said, it was really beginning to take our toll on us. And we were trying to adjust to the new schedule, and we noticed that things just started to fall by the wayside. I hate to say it, but Bible study and things like that, eating dinner together, and just kind of fell by the wayside and became a thing of the past, our schedule. And instead of saying our prayers like we used to over the food, and it became about how quickly we could get the food cooked and eat, and maybe watch a few minutes of TV and get the baby changed and go to bed. I mean, every day just sort of became a rush for us because we didn't have that schedule we were so used to. And so it got me to really thinking, and I've been thinking a lot lately about how we could get everything back in order, and get back on our regular schedule, and prioritize and get the Bible study back going and everything. But more importantly, as Haley is starting to get older and pick up on stuff, realize what's going on around her, I started to think about what kind of example we're setting for her. And that's how I came to write this sermon. And I'll get more into that in a minute. But for now, if you'll pray with me, let's bow our heads. Dear God, you made me. You created me. Now give me the sense to follow your commands. May all who fear you find in me a cause for joy, for I have put my hope in your word. Amen. Thank you. So, again, I started really thinking about what kind of an example we're setting for Haley. And I started thinking about my own parents and the fact that they set a good example for me. My father, Ben Pulley, he always pushed good morals on us. A strict sense of right and wrong. Your general stuff. Respect your elders, your manners. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. And he always stressed the importance of hard work. And he was strict about it. The Bible says in Proverbs 13:24, he who spares the rod hates his child. And let me tell you, my daddy loved me. He loved me a lot. And while my dad taught us respect and hard work and manners, my mother, Nancy Pulley, taught us love for one another and for everybody. She really just taught us to love everybody. And she is and has always been the heart and soul of our family. And she's a very kind lady, and she just really taught us what love is. And our parents, they were very actively involved in our lives. We weren't from the TV generation. We were always doing stuff. My daddy often took us hunting and fishing, or he put us to work in the garden or chopping wood for the winter. But working or playing, we spent a lot of time, a lot of quality father and son time with my dad. And my mom enrolled us in many things that made us better men, like basketball and Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Vacation Bible School, to name a few. I mean, they were always very actively involved in our lives and getting us enrolled in things that, that made us active in society and in the world and not just couch potatoes. We always ate dinner at the table as a family. And this is what I meant, Haley's growing up and we're eating dinner on the couch. We're not making meals and sitting down as a family. We're grabbing a hot dog and eating it as fast as you can and getting the clothes washed and sweeping up the floor and just all these responsibilities and heading to bed, not really spending a lot of time with each other. And as I said, we ate dinner at the table as a family, and this is when we talked. When I was growing up, this is when we learned what was going on with each other and when we bonded as a family, as parents and children and as brothers with my brothers. And this is the kind of things I've been thinking about a lot lately. And I'm willing to bet that most of you were raised in a similar fashion. I bet you all have fond memories of growing up, and you have a strong sense of pride in your roots and your family. And that's a good thing. And that's what bringing me to what I want to talk to you about today. Like I said, we have fond memories of growing up. Well, we're the next generation. It's our responsibility to pass on these family values to our children. In this age, we have the computers and the internet, and video games, the iPads and cell phones, and all these electronic devices and stuff that we spend so much of our time on. And here's where we need to slow it down, stop and smell the roses, or whatever expression you like. And we need to make sure that we're going to pass to our children these same values and this family time that we enjoyed coming up. And we got to teach them about manners and respect and love. And most importantly, of course, we have to teach them about Jesus Christ. And so I want to talk to you about some of the ways we may be able to do this. And the first thing I have written down here is to get God. That sounds like a cheap slogan, but seriously, I think the first thing that we all need to do as parents, now that it's our turn, most of us, we had a good upbringing and we're decent people. But now that it's our turn to pass the torch, we need to make sure we have God into our homes, or that we get God into our homes if we don't have Him. I mean, do you talk about God at home? Do you talk about Jesus Christ to your children? And, I don't mean if you told them the story of creation, that God created the world in 7 days and took a rest, 6 days, excuse me, and, that you've told them that Jesus died for their sakes. But, do you continuously talk about God? Now, I don't mean you don't have to talk about God every waking second of your life, but daily would be good. If you talk about God at least once a day in your household, that would be great. And if you can't manage that, perhaps a weekly Bible study would be something that you could fit into your schedule. There's all types of Bible studies online that you could use for a guide. You can even do a Bible reading. They have the Bible charts that you can buy from the Family Christian Bookstore. You can get them online, anywhere off the internet, where you just have the little boxes and you read so many chapters a day. And you can even do a Bible reading. You can get a Bible chart and pick a time during the week that you and your family can sit around and read the Bible out loud. We do that in my house, and it can be awkward. It's going to take some getting used to, sitting there reading a book with everybody in the room, but it's something really good you can do, and it works. And it's a great way to get the Word of God into your lives. You can even take turns. Dad can read a little bit, and then Mom can read a little bit, and if your kids are old enough, you can pass it to them and they can read a little bit. And I've quoted this passage many, many times here on this website, and I'll quote it again. In Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 through 7, Moses said, "Listen, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. And you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength. And you must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands that I am giving you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you're on the road and when you're at home. when you're going to bed and when you're getting up. We clearly hear the Bible commands us to discuss the scriptures with our families. So again, that's a good way you can do that, is to get one of those Bible charts and have a Bible reading. Or if it's something you're really uncomfortable with, I know some people don't like to do stuff in front of other people, period. And I understand that. And they even have audio Bibles. I've started one on my website. If you can use that one if you want. But CDs they have where the narrator reads the Bible. If you're not comfortable reading or speaking out loud in front of people, you can even get one of those and play it on the radio. You know, you can all just sit around the radio and play. For instance, it'll be Genesis chapters 1 through 3 on your first Bible reading day. Put it in a CD player and listen to it. You know, everybody can sit there and be quiet if nothing else. And that's a good way you can do that. So, again, definitely maybe try to set aside a time during the week where you can read the Bible or even listen to it. You know, a couple of chapters a day with the whole family. That's a great way to get God into your household. The second thing I have written here is use music. You know, music is something I think almost everybody loves. And music is an acceptable way to bring God into your home. You know, I remember to this day from songs from Smyrna Baptist Church, Vacation Bible School, like Jesus Loves Me Better Than Ice Cream and Father Abraham, you know, silly little songs that your kids can like. My oldest daughter, I've taught her those songs, and she loves to sing them, and she's going to teach them to Haley. And that's a good way. My daddy wasn't a Bible man. I don't remember him, I don't remember my family pulling the Bible out and preaching around like I hope to do with my family. But my dad's a Christian, and he's a huge fan of gospel music. I learned a great deal about the Lord growing up through the music of people like Hank Williams and Johnny Cash and Hank Snow. I mean, some people may scoff at that, but if you look at my YouTube channel, you clearly see that my dad's gospel songs, the songs he played for me, had a profound effect on my faith and the way that I worship. And I learned a lot through their songs about Jesus and other characters in the Bible. I don't mean to say characters, but about Jesus and other people in the Bible through their songs. And songs like How Can You Refuse Him Now, and I Heard My Savior Call, or Johnny Cash, He Turned the Water into Wine. It's a great song. It's a great moving tribute to the Lord that did much to strengthen my relationship with God. And we look to the scriptures in Exodus chapter 15, we find these words. Moses and the people of Israel sang to the Lord. The Lord is my strength and my song. In Psalm 81, it says, sing praises to God, our strength. Sing to the God of Jacob. Sing, beat the tambourine, play the sweet lyre and the harp. Blow the ram's horn at the new moon and again at the full moon to call a festival. And for this is required by the decrees of Israel. And finally, in Colossians 3:16, the Apostle Paul says, sing songs and hymns to God with thankful hearts. So set aside a time for you and your family to listen to your favorite songs of praise. As the Bible clearly says that this is an acceptable way to worship. And it's fun for the children and the whole family. Those are just a few scriptures I quoted, but if you read the Psalms and just really the whole Bible, the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Psalms, there's many examples of people listening to music to worship God. It's absolutely an acceptable form of worship. And you're listening to these songs and they're telling you to love God and Jesus, and it makes you feel a certain way. And you sing. You're in that spiritual mood. You're singing to God at the top of your lungs. It's a great way to worship, and it can be fun for the children. It doesn't have to be Vashawn Mitchell or something. It can be Bible songs for children. And so those are two ways. One, reading the Bible or even listening to it, and listening to music, gospel music, and enjoying that are two good ways to worship. And it's good ways to worship, and it's good ways to introduce your children to Jesus and to the gospel. Monkey see, monkey do. We've all heard that, I know. We all like to say it. Your children, they're not going to worship Jesus on their own. Uh, you have to teach them. They're not going to know about Jesus if you don't tell them. And they're not going to be comfortable being Christian and worshiping and have that strong faith where when somebody picks on them, they'll be able to get over it and still be strong in the faith if you don't teach them. So if we don't teach these things to our children, they're never going to know. That's why I call this sermon Raising Christian Children, because my whole point here is that we got to get these values passed down of being good people and having manners and being Christian. Our kids can have strong faith and be great, but it has to come from us. We have to set the example. Number 3 that I have written down here is FaceTime. And this is really important, spending time with each other and your family. You can picture everybody's in the living room, dad's reading the paper, mama's on the iPad, and the kids are on their cell phones on Facebook. It's good that everybody's together, but this definitely does not count as quality time. I mean, there's things we have to make sure we can work on, these kind of things. We need to make sure that we're doing things together. Maybe turn off the TV and play a board game, or studying the Bible like we talked about, or listen to music. Maybe you could even constitute a couple hours a week, or maybe even a whole night where you don't watch TV, no electronic devices. No TV, no computers, no cell phones. And you just sit around and be a family and talk to each other. One of the biggest ways I mentioned earlier that I think we could all spend quality time together with our families is making sure you're eating dinner at the table as a family. Now, I don't know, this may not be an issue. You may already do this. I'm not saying you don't, but eat dinner together at the table. Make sure you're not eating in the living room, or your kids aren't taking the food to their room to eat, or everybody get together. This is a great time that everyone's sitting at the table to talk about what you did today or what you did this week, just what's on your mind and how you feel about things. This is the kind of things we need to make sure that we're passing on to our kids, this FaceTime, because you get so busy. I know I work overnights right now, so it's very difficult. My wife goes to bed without me. Haley goes to bed without me. Not all the time, but more often than it should happen. And right now, my wife and I don't have any days off together. So there's really that pressure to get that FaceTime in. And so, one of the things we learn is when you don't have a lot of time to spend together, what becomes really important and what can make up for that is what you do when you do have that time together. Making that valuable time. When you do have time together, go to the park or just go outside, and instead of necessarily watching a movie or something you have to pay attention to. Sorry. So again, what we're just really stressing here is for everyone to work on their family values. Let's make sure that our parents did a great job, and let's make sure we're doing the same for our children and making sure there's a lot of family time and that we're expressing our love for each other. And especially with the childbearing, I've made a few notes here, and basically the kind of things I'm talking about. If you have a son, we have our young men, we need to make sure that we're teaching them to work hard and be good, honest people and treat women with respect, to help other people when they need it, not be lazy. And it's important to teach our young men that it's okay to have emotions and to talk to people when they need help. This is why so many of these young guys you see on the news are getting into trouble, because they're being raised that if you're a man, you have to be a hard case, and you don't ever cry and show emotions and tell people how you feel because that's funny and that kind of stuff. We need to make sure we're not telling our young men that. And so much in the media today, it just seems like it's okay to mistreat women because you want to be Mr. Cool, and You know, you don't let anybody mess with you, and you can push your girlfriend around and look out for yourself. You know, it's really up to us to teach these kids about love and God and Jesus. You know, that old thing, what would Jesus do, is something that we should really work hard on bringing back. So again, we just need to teach our young guys that they need to work hard and be honest and treat women respectfully. You know, open the door for a woman and help people. You know, if you see somebody struggling to get something done, give them a hand. It's okay. I mean, everything, you don't have to. Sometimes people are like, there's nothing in it for me, basically, so I'm not doing it. And that's not the way we want to be. Help people out. And we need to teach them to be thankful for the things they have and not take stuff for granted also. So again, just if we're going to build good, strong, honest young men that are unafraid to be themselves, they're unafraid to love Jesus and proclaim that love, and you know, we're going to grow them into good, strong men who are going to grow up and take care of their families. But again, that kind of stuff comes from us. They're not going to learn this stuff in school. They're not going to learn it on the TV. It's up to us to really bring these qualities home. And again, for the young ladies, for our daughters, which of course is important to me, we need to teach the young girls to be self-reliant. We, of course, what we want for our daughters is to grow up and get married and have children and, you know, be good Christian women, but we need to make sure our daughters don't grow up thinking they need somebody to take care of them, you know. We need to teach them to be self-reliant. We got to teach them that their happiness comes from inside. You know, happiness comes from the Lord, and it comes from inside of you. And that nobody can make you happy. You know, because a lot of young women today, you see that they feel like they have to get a man to take care of them and get somebody, a boyfriend or something, to make them happy. And we don't want them to fall into that trap of thinking that, you know, having a person or having things is going to make you happy. And we have to teach them to be self-reliant and to be happy from within. And another big thing for the young ladies is self-respect. Because quite frankly, you just see a lot of ladies out here these days that don't respect themselves. They think it's cool to be lewd and, you know, just not very ladylike. I can't really think of any way to say it. So again, with our daughters, we need to teach them to be self-reliant and, you know, caring. Again, the same with the guys, that they can express their emotions and for them to be nice and help people out, and again, respectful, you know, to dress nice and act nice and be nice, because you see some of these women on TV, on some of these shows, that just, the more lewd they can be, the greater they think it is, and we just have to teach them that that's not really the case. So that's basically it. I mean, I just been thinking a lot about media in general, basically the media, a lot of the ways that our kids are watching on TV that families are, and that people should act and behave that way. We need to make sure they don't, and make sure that we do a really good job of bringing them up and you know, making them into good adults. And the Bible, obviously, everything you need for instruction is in there. Read the Proverbs and the New Testament, a lot of the things everything that the Apostle Paul says, and St. Peter, I've talked about, you know, just love in general and the way we should act respectfully. So in closing up, I'm just really asking that we all take a look back on the way we were raised, because I know a lot of you personally, and I know your parents, I know they were good people. And we just need to make sure that we take the parts of growing up that made us good people, and the parts that we enjoyed, and to keep that alive. Our parents did a great job. It's our turn now to carry the torch. And a lot of times with these laptops and iPads and iPods and all these things, which I think they're good, don't get me wrong, these things do enrich our lives. the computers. I know I spend my time on them. The computers, the phones, and that stuff. But, you know, let's make sure that we're teaching them about families as well. And we teach them about God and you know, morals and that sort of thing, being good people. And what's really important in our lives is God. They need to know what's important in our lives is God, our families. You know, the best way to make sure that God knows you love Him and that your family knows that you love them is to tell them. You know, let's share that FaceTime with each other and get in there and tell them how we feel. So, parents, I wanted to share with you. Look at the book Song of Songs, chapter 8, verse 6, where the young woman says, "Place me like a seal over your heart, like a seal on your arm. For love is as strong as death. Its jealousy as enduring as the grave. Love flashes like a fire, the brightest kind of flame. Many waters cannot quench love, nor can rivers drown it. If a man tried to buy love with all his wealth, his offer would be utterly scorned." If we love each other like this, then our children are going to see it. And it will frame the way that they see relationships and parenting when the time comes for them. And again, as we've heard many times in Ephesians chapter 6, we are called to bring our children up with wisdom and instruction that comes from the Lord. So again, that's basically it. I just wanted to make sure everybody's got their mind on bringing the kids up and making sure we do it in the right way. To teach them to believe in the Lord and to love the Lord and to be respectful and good people. So that's all. Thank you for watching. We'll pray again to close this out. If you bow your heads for me. Lord, my heart is not proud. My eyes are not haughty. I don't concern myself with matters too great or too awesome for me to grasp. Instead, I have calmed and quieted myself, like a weaned child who no longer cries for his mother's milk. Yes, like a weaned child is my soul within me. O Israel, put your hope in the Lord always. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.